In late 2020, I knew that I wanted to move out of my parents' basement and buy a house. Given my young age and the inflated housing market, I knew there was no way I was going to be able to afford a move in ready house. There were going to have to be some sort of sacrifices. So the search began, and after 3 failed offers, I finally got the call that an offer was accepted. I was ecstatic. Now it's time to put in the work. Problem number one, the biggest problem. The basement was previously flooded, or so we thought. Now, from the information we were given, it was explained that a pipe had burst, and that was how the water damage had occurred. It was very clear that they had removed all the drywall from the lower half throughout the basement, and mitigated any residual damage. We quickly learned once we moved into the house that this was not the case. Any major rainfall and water would enter into the basement. Not exactly what we signed up for. But now it's time to do the detective work. Where is the water coming from? How is it getting in the basement? And why only one heavy rainfall? Come to find out, there was a crack about 3/4 of the way up the wall in the basement, hidden behind the drywall. So we got that fixed. And a couple light rainfalls later, it appeared that we had fixed the problem. Little did we know, a big storm later that month would come in and prove we, in fact, did not fix the leak. I did a little research and found out the landscape outside our house was not done properly. So whenever it would rain, the water would sit right up against the foundation, slowly allow the water to creep into the basement, and we would have a huge mess to clean up. This was a pretty easy fix. We just had to regrade some of the landscape and make sure the downspouts carried the water further away from the house. Once all of that was fixed, it's finally time to go ahead and actually refinish the basement. There are a couple steps we're going to take in order to refinish this basement. The first step was framing. Frame out all along the wall, around the window, and around the water meter. Second step was drywall. Drywall the new framing, install any patches in the other wall, and drywall around the water meter. Finally, the fourth step, the start of this video. Install a spacer so the drywall will cover the conduit. Once that's complete, all we have left to do on the ceiling is install the drywall. Now that's easier said than done. Fuck. Oh, there goes that sheet. Damn it. As you can see, hanging drywall is definitely a two-man job. Or at least you should use the proper tools required to operate as one man. They make a drywall lift exactly for this application. I definitely knew about these before I chose to start this job. Why didn't I opt to get one, you ask? Great question. I was figuring, like any ignorant person, how hard could it really be? Well, as you just saw, it may not be the most difficult, but if you don't actually support the piece of drywall, they are very, very easy to break. Luckily, I didn't get hurt, and all I had to do was remove the old piece and start working on a new one. Now, this could have been really bad, though. The sheet could have dropped down, caught me in the face somewhere, cut me wide open. The sheet could have dropped down, threw me into the wall. There are a handful of things that could have happened. We're just lucky that none of that did happen, and the piece broke when I walked away. And the only thing we have to worry about now is doing work twice. Definitely not my favorite thing to do. However, compared to the alternative, I'll take this every day of the week. So much time would have been saved if I would have just had the proper tool. It's really a good lesson for life if we're being honest. If there is a tool, you should probably use it. There's a reason somebody invented that tool, and it will save you so much headache
and time in the end if you just use the proper tool.
Alright, wrapping it up for today, calling it quits, but didn't exactly get as far as I would have liked to, so I'm going to go ahead, and I know I have to remove this door again after I put it on, because I'm going to have to put the paneling up, but I just want to get the door on so that it looks good, at least for now, since I got a mess in the ceiling. Ceiling isn't done yet. I ended up breaking a sheet of drywall, which really sucks, but I might be able to make it work. Worst case scenario, I just go get another sheet of drywall and I finish it from there. But I want to get this on so this looks good, so we get at least a small win for the day. So I'm going to go ahead and get this on. I'm sure you just saw in that clip, but managed to blow a hole in my pants today too, so that sucks. I'll have to get any pair of those, but we got our door on there. I know it looks a little goofy now, but man, it looks better than seeing all the junk that's in there. Got crap all over the floor. I got a mess to clean up. So, door on. It's literally just sitting there. I don't even think I want to try and open it. It'll just blow those drywall. It'll blow the screws out of the drywall. There's no wood behind there. There's nothing. We'll fix that later, but door's on. Looks better than nothing. And I'll have to get the rest of this. Should be a couple seconds for you, but it'll be a couple days probably for me before I can get back down here and get this drywall finished. It's starting to come along though, so I'm getting excited.
So I think I came down here and measured these drywall openings probably 3 different times and put off doing it all 3 of those times. In the end, I think it took me maybe half an hour to get these installed. But it took up so much brain bandwidth and drugged me down for days just thinking about it. All for barely half an hour's worth of work. All that dwelling on it. For what? It was not even worth the headache. It was such an easy process. I just actually had to do the work. I was looking for a shortcut or something to make it easier, when in the end, it wasn't even a hard task. Anyone else have this issue? The main issue I was freaking out about was cutting them. Because they weren't straight lines, I knew I was going to need to measure and trace a line that wouldn't be parallel to the other face. This is because of how I initially hung the first sheet. So I was way overthinking it and telling myself it's going to be way harder than it was, when, in the end, it was super easy. Just measure and cut, just like everything else. And it went in perfectly fine. So, in the end, next time, I just need to keep a mental note to myself, not to procrastinate things, and just do the work when you have the time to do it, and your life will be so much easier. If you've made it this far, please be sure to leave a like, drop a comment, and if you haven't already, click subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one.